Hello, I'm Val, or Elizabeth Gonzalez, as my legal name is. And for our group, we will talk about identifying your audience and building on the topic that you will have to present in front of them. First impressions and starting your speech. When starting your speech, you're going to have to be flexible and adapt into what the energy the audience member will give you. This is because when you have outlines, sometimes a bullet point or a joke does not land. And so then you would have to adapt and make sure to continue being flexible in order to still remain in the energy and eyes of the audience. First impressions are also important. So having a presentation with pictures, colors will be more visual appealing to an audience who might be a visual learner instead of an auditory one. Also, dressing is important. When you dress for the occasion, this gives the performance something steady. If you are wearing professional clothing, you are letting your audience know that this is a professional event and for any theme forward. Audience perception. In order to have your speech, you have to identify the types of audience you have. There are the 5 C's: captive, committed, contrary, concerned, and casual. A captive audience is already listening. They are already interested in what you have to say. And so for them, you just have to live up to that hype. For the contrary audience, they are already opposed to your opinion. They don't really agree with you. And for them, you have to transition into your point. Because if you go head on with something that they already disagree with, they are more willing to be stubborn and shut their ears to you. So you have to be prepared to answer any rebuttals and be prepared to be slightly neutral or transition them into your side. A concerned audience is someone who is listening but semi. They're kind of concerned and only want to hear you on certain things. So you have to be interesting and you have to be reassuring and you have to make sure to have bright points. That way they are less worried and more in tune to listen to your whole speech. The last type is casual, someone who wasn't really like reserving a spot. They found themselves here. And so you have to be charismatic. You have to have more jokes, something that will actually turn them into a captive audience. When you determine this speech, you have to determine different demographics, their age. With their age changes their vocabulary, whether it's more simple or complex, or what type of themes you can actually talk about. Political affiliation happens a lot with oppositional audiences. Ethnicity as well, and passions and careers and gender. All of these have to make sure in how you talk about the language you use in your speech and how you can actually relate to the audience member and interact with them. In addition, for ethnicity, when you can talk about different cultures, that is also what helps, because then that means that you can actually touch into how they were raised and their family. For careers, you can also pinpoint inside jokes or things that are more centered into what they are already knowledgeable about. And same thing with gender. Maybe if you talk about abortion rights, the captive audience would be filled with people with uteruses because these rights are important.
So once you identify your audience and their composition, you do need to build your topic. So brainstorming the details of your topic requires the use of the speaker's own experiences, whether it's through beliefs or childhood stories. Speaking on a topic that you're not really passionate about leads to a difficult and less interesting speech. And like I said, you can also make yourself passionate about it by relating to it, whether through your childhood stories or something that you experienced in your past. Passion and relatability should be the goal for the speaker. So for your body of speech, you should get through your main point, which is how to write a speech, which consists of just your general topic, your audience analysis, and the topic and outline. Then you transition into the second main point, which is rehearsing your speech. You decide whether you will use cue cards or memorize. You can set up a rehearsal, goals, and a schedule, and you just bring it all together. So for creating a relationship to your audience, the audience responds to the speaker depending on how much they like them. So by adding humor, empathy, and even stories, help the speaker's ability to connect with their audience. So let's say you're giving a speech in a business meeting. You can use humor to capture the attention, and then just throughout the whole speech, just continue relating back to that event that brings your speech together. And as a speaker, you don't want to seem too out of reach to the audience. You can relate to them to bring them to see that you're just another peer or maybe even a role model. Another way of connecting is through substantive similarities, which is similarities in backgrounds and ideas of the speaker and audience. By identifying the audience, you can see what relates to them. So for the body of your speech, now that you attracted the audience to the first impressions, you must hold their focus. So every speech consists of evidence and research into the topic, whether the speaker has an extensive background or not. So you can be studying something for years or even months, but as long as you have that evidence and research and you know what you're talking about, you can convince the audience or even show the audience that you know what you're saying. So a confident and calm speaker maintains eye contact, dynamism, and doesn't use filler words. So without eye contact and using filler words, you don't really sell your speech. It's only when all those things are combined. So if you're mumbling or even if you're not maintaining eye contact, it seems like you don't really know what you're talking about and it doesn't really look as professional. And dynamism is the excitement of the speaker has during the speech. And if the speaker starts off the speech with excitement but ends with a tired voice, they lose the audience somewhere in between. So this happens a lot in speeches where you project your voice really high in the beginning, like if you're giving a speech in an auditorium or even in a little room with 4 people, you project your voice very high in the beginning, but as you progress in your speech, your voice starts getting a little tired or you start mumbling a little bit. So as long as you keep a high voice inflection throughout your entire speech and even add a little excitement in there, it brings your speech together. And towards the end of your speech, if you do feel yourself getting a little tired, or even you see the audience getting a little bit more tired, it's good to throw in some jokes or even like memories that you had or events that really stood out in your memory to refresh the audience.